Hello and welcome back to Just Ask Mrs. Hurlbut. This is episode 38 and our topic today is being right. And I'm so happy to share with you that Lucy is back.
I'm back.
Thank you for being here, Lucy. It's no fun doing this by myself.
You did great.
You think? Oh, you're very kind. So we're going to talk about being right today. Why is this a title? It seems like a kind of an odd topic, but here's the thing. A lot of us are stubborn. A lot of us are righteous. A lot of us want our voice to be heard. And yes, that's all very, very important. But sometimes we got to choose our battles. And sometimes we've got to just sort of step back and decide what's important. So gain a little perspective and maybe zip it. Just zip it. See what happens. So I'm really curious to hear what these questions are going to be. So Lucy, let's go.
Okay, well, talking about zip it,
What?
can being kind sometimes mean not correcting someone even if they're clearly wrong?
The answer is absolutely yes. You gotta ask yourself, what do I have to gain from proving myself? I mean, yes, it depends on the situation and whether somebody's, in harm's way, but you know you're right. The whole world doesn't need to know. You have nothing to prove. So it's always smarter to be kind. What was the quote that I posted? If you're right, come on, Lucy, you didn't see it? If you choose to be kind instead of right, then you're always right.
That was a good one.
Because, thank you, it wasn't mine, but thank you. Sometimes you just have to be quiet. Just be quiet. Honestly, what I tend to do is let the other person talk and talk, even if I know nothing is correct.
Yeah.
I'll just be in listening ear.
Unless they're asking for
That's it.
answers or solutions or
Or
opinions.
advice. Yeah. Right.
How can you handle situations where being right might damage a relationship?
Well, being right can be problematic because we tend to not want to hear what anybody else has to say. And that's when tunnel vision kicks in. And you can be right all day, but if you're not putting that relationship first, then the rightness is doing you a disservice. There's nothing wrong with agreeing to disagree or saying, I hear what you're saying. I think otherwise. Let's move on. You want to put that relationship first. Now, if it's a chronic problem and you're always at odds because you're both fighting to see who's right, then you're not building your relationship properly. That's a problem. There's other issues there that need to be dealt with. And the important point is that you're putting the relationship first. Listen, I'm married to somebody who is always
Watch
right.
yourself.
He's always right. Is he listening? He's not here. He's always right, and he really almost always is right. And he fights for it. And sometimes I just want to say, yeah, okay, I hear you. You're right. But can you just hear me? Can we just have a conversation? And can we be kind about it? Because being right or wrong at this point is not the issue.
Yeah.
The issue is the kindness and the approach with which you state your case.
I also think it matters, what we're talking about. Like, if I know a lot of couples and friends that's like, you're really just fighting to be heard. You're not necessarily fighting to be right. Because if we're talking about feelings, you just want to be understood and heard. But sometimes people think that, like, well, no, my feelings are correct. It's like, no, those are your feelings.
Right. So that's another
And
issue.
you want them to be seen and understood and felt valid for them. But that doesn't mean that that's a fact and that it's right.
Right. But do you, as the person feeling this way, are you able to distinguish between fact and feeling?
Yeah.
Because emotions always get involved when you're not agreeing.
Mm-hmm.
So the key would be to set aside the emotions, to think practically, and maybe even realize that you, in fact, aren't right. Or maybe it isn't totally true.
I also
Go ahead.
I was just going to put my 2 cents in of to go back to the question, to avoid damaging a relationship with that. I think that, at least in my experience in my romantic relationship, if we're not saying eye to eye, in my brain I'm like, okay, do I actually think that what I'm saying is correct, or do I just want, I will say out loud, hey, I don't want to prove you wrong, I just want, like, do you understand what I'm saying? And he'll be like, yeah. But if there's times where I'm like, no, you are wrong, I want to prove the facts, and I will say, like, no, this is correct, let's look at the facts, like, whatever.
But you also have to say, is me being right going to make the situation any better?
Exactly. It depends on what it is. Like,
right.
if we're talking about directions, yeah, I don't want to add 20 minutes to our drive, and I know I'm right, so I'm going to make sure we're going the right way. But yeah, if it's not going to change anything other than your ego, then maybe just put it aside for a sec.
No, you should put your ego aside completely, not even for a sec. Your ego rears its ugly head a lot, and that's honestly what gets in the way of being right instead of being kind, when you get your ego too involved. And the only way to get rid of your ego is to pull in humility. And when you pull in humility, suddenly you're willing to listen to what the other person has to say, whether or not they're correct.
So then, how can I stay open-minded when I'm emotionally invested in being right?
Well, back up to the word emotional.
Yeah.
You've got to check yourself and remove the emotions from it. When emotions get the better of you, you get so caught up in the argument, oftentimes you forget what you're even arguing about. So how do you do that? You remove the emotion from it. You maybe step back, reflect on what you're saying, approach it a different way, take a break, count to 10, whatever it is. But don't let your emotions dictate the debate. Don't let your emotions get the better of you, because honestly, when you do, the line gets really blurred between what is fact and what is feeling.
Okay, this one's interesting because it's not necessarily about being right, but are there times when staying silent is better than speaking the truth?
Yeah. There are times when staying silent is better than speaking the truth. Again, it depends on the truth. If the truth is going to set somebody free, it's going to make all the difference in the world, you're doing a disservice by being silent. But more often than not, it's something very simple. And there are so many times in my life where I've thought, I'll weigh, because I don't bring emotions into it, I'll weigh the options. Is this worth pushing, or is there no harm by me just sitting back and letting this person take over the conversation or speak their mind?
What about in times where you have information that you don't know whether to stay silent or tell someone? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I just heard an amazing example at work today from a student. And in this case, I said the person who spoke up is the hero in this story. The long story short is a girl called off her wedding the week before the wedding because she found out her fiance was had a gambling problem.
Okay.
And the best friend of the fiance, the man in this scenario, the best friend told his friend, "You better tell her,
or else
I'll tell her." And he didn't. So the best friend spoke up, and it changed everything.
Yeah.
Right. Marriage, wedding off.
I think that.
So that's like, like a life or death situation.
I always say that because I've had this with my friends a lot, that if staying silent is going to you have to put into perspective, is it going to make you feel better or make that person feel better? Because if you're doing it because you don't want to be the bearer of bad news, that's selfish. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, it's better for you to stay silent, but like I've had, in the last year, almost every piece of bad news I've received has come from people closest to me. And they've told me, they're like, I don't want you to resent me for being the one that's had to tell you this. But I'm like, but all I've ever asked is for honesty, and that's what you've given me, so why would I resent you for it? Mm-hmm. It was hard things to hear, but yeah, it made them feel worse, but it made me feel better.
But think of the context of what you just said. That's a give and take. That's a need to know. But
some of it wasn't need to know. It was just a personal, What?
Observation? No.
Just more so like information that might be hard for me to hear. But I had told them, like, I don't want to be in the dark about
You need to hear
certain
this.
things.
Right.
Yeah.
So you want to proceed with care, proceed with caution, that you really, without emotions involved, weigh the pros and the cons of that truth. And oftentimes, for me anyway, I find myself, especially in my work life, where I'm like, you know what? I am not going to get hooked into this dialogue that I'm hearing. I'm going to stand back. I hear what they're saying. I know where the truth is. Offering them the truth isn't going to change anything. So I'm just going to go, I'm all ears. I'm listening. I'm going to move on. I choose my battles.
I'm going to throw in a question.
That's not on there?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, try me.
From a parental to child dynamic, are there times where staying silent is better than being right? Like, is there times where it's like you feel comfortable, like, I know what's right, but I'm going to let my kid figure it out?
That's really good parenting. Parenting adult children, the best way to do that when the I'm right issue is I cannot tell you what to do. I can offer you guidance. I cannot tell you what to do. You have to make your own decisions. You have to make your own mistakes because that's how you're going to grow. There's a generation of parents right now that coddle their children and they want to fix all the mistakes in their lives, and the kid has learned nothing.
What about not adult children? Like your viewers, your students that age, when you are a parent of kids that age, at what point do you let them figure it out? And at one point do you step in because you know you're right?
Do you remember being that age and coming to me? It's different. I'm going to guess at that age, maybe the kid wants more information from their parents, or maybe not. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe they're pushing away. You got to navigate that so carefully. And if you've been a really good parent from day one, if you've communicated in a very healthy way, then that transition should be okay. My general rule of thumb is I don't offer people advice unless they ask for it. And that goes for my adult kids too. I try, but like a high school child of mine, there might have been some reality checks where I sat you down and said, we need to talk. Here's the facts. Here's what I've observed. What are you going to do? And how can I help fix that?
But was there moments where, as long as, their safety was not at risk, that you're like, I'm just going to sit back and let them figure this one out?
Yes.
Even though you knew exactly how it was going to go?
Yes, for sure. Whether it's, Rita trying to navigate being a club athlete and hold a job.
Yeah.
And I knew that she was going to call out for so many shifts that she's probably going to end up not working there anymore. Even though I made it clear when she got her license she had to do that. I knew in the back of my mind, especially when your father was the one taking her everywhere, that if it came the two of us talking about it, he would say, she needs to quit that job, and I have to go along with that. So yeah, there were times where I would have to step in, but there are times where I knew in the back of my mind how it was going to end, but I had to let it play out.
Gotcha. Can being too focused on being right become harmful or arrogant?
Well, I think we kind of covered the harmful with relationships, but arrogant, yes. Why? Because the more you focus on being right, the more your ego is taking over. And the more your ego takes over, that's when selfishness comes in, that's where arrogance comes in. And you're so close-minded. Anybody who is that hard-pressed to be right is no longer listening to anybody else. And that's where arrogance comes in. So yeah, be mindful of that. Ask yourself, is this worth the fight? Is this going to damage the relationship? Is this going to reflect poorly on me as a human being? Honestly, the best people to know are people who listen not to respond, but listen to understand. Whether or not they're right, honestly, sometimes that's secondary.
Yeah, I think that sometimes the more focused you are on being right and you become more arrogant, like you eventually just think you're right because you said it.
And you lose sight of what it was all about in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering what students who are in law school right now are thinking of all this, because of course you're studying how to argue a point. But I'm not talking about
Yeah, you're not making
a
money
courthouse. I'm
from
talking about
being right.
I'm talking about interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
And how to salvage them and how to sustain them.
Well, that was our last question.
Oh, that was it. Wow. That was easy, and it's so nice to have someone to talk to. So thank you, Lucy. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope that you'll come back too. Don't forget, you can find us where? Lucy, help me out.
YouTube, Spotify for the full episode, clips, and asking questions on Instagram and TikTok, and at justaskmrshurlbut@gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next time.